Today, the alumni of the UNAOC Fellowship will be discussing about education as a tool to prevent radicalization. So we're bringing together young people who are working at grassroots levels, sharing their experiences on how education can turn out to be a very powerful tool in this challenging world where we are actually dealing with a lot of violent extremism.
Young people are not really victims or perpetrators in a conflict, but they are actually at grassroots levels and also at other levels, if we look, they're actually the ones that are very, very active in peace building and in ensuring peace and security in so many aspects.
We see a lot of potential in using of information communication technologies and the accessibility of young people towards mobile devices or computers and internet. So we see this as a potential to bridge cultures, to have access for people to meet each other, to learn from each other and discuss.
There is a lot of power that information communication technologies have in this aspect, as their utilization would enable a larger number of people from different parts that are often excluded, such as youth from rural groups or youth from marginalized groups, to attend more of these programs.
The technology companies should be part of public policy formation, and also the groups and the movements that are finding their voice and finding their nascence on these platforms. We have to get smarter and more reactive in terms of how we can deal with the public policy challenges that exist in the digital age, but also how we can elevate alternative narratives on the platform so that we harness the power of digital technologies to create a cohesive social good.
This photo on the left-hand side of the slide was taken in 2005 in Rome at the Conclave. A mere 8 years later, this is the mediation of that experience. 2016 looks a little bit like this. So we're consuming, creating, and sharing content with a rapidity that is just unprecedented.
The term culture is so multidimensional, and it's like an iceberg where you have a visible and an invisible part, and in that invisible part there are so many profound values that need to be discovered, and it should be the responsibility of the teacher to make them or to turn them in a visible part.
If I go to my 11-year-old French learners, which have limited knowledge that they can express in the French language, we would start with the first step of intercultural competence, which is savoir. So this basically means knowledge, but it's not like knowledge only about the country, it's more knowledge about the people that live in and their culture.
As I worked as a teacher for 17 years, I believe that kids and children, they are powerful actors, and they can contribute with us in preventing extremism.
When I went to teach in the primary school, I thought that I have a knowledge, and my mission was just to transmit my knowledge to the kids, the poor kids. And with time I realized that I was the poor one, and I learned from them a lot. I learned from them how to use my imagination, how to be creative, and also how to use emotion and feelings to build peace.
Some members of our groups are working for NGOs, civil society organizations, government institutions, and universities. It was a very good opportunity for all of us to brainstorm and to think together about the good practices implemented in our communities.
In a time when extremist groups are using social media and online platforms to in their benefit, initiatives like these are very important to counter these divisive narratives, and also to empower young people with the skills and knowledge they need to foster intercultural communication and respect for diversity.
First and foremost, the importance of seeing youth as critical allies in the prevention of violence, and seeing technology as a context of opportunity. And what I hope that the people who hear our presentation today take away is an interest in funding the sorts of research that helps us understand what are the alternative stories we need to be telling about violence prevention and youth engagement.
Digital communications platforms are contexts. There's no kind of ways around it. They are contexts of radicalization. But that's not the only node which they connect. They also serve as contexts for journalism, for witnessing events that people otherwise might not see around the world. They also serve as contexts for the socially responsible engagement of citizens.
There are different sides to each story, and that radicalization is not just a one point issue or from one point of view. There are different sides to that story. There's the I would say global perspective, but there are alternative narratives inside each community.
We need to build the capacity of youth to tell the stories of the communities, to share those stories with the world and provide the untold stories or alternative narratives that weren't being told from the point of view of the Yemeni people.
The critical importance of seeing young people as equal stakeholders and active partners in this process of building peaceful communities at a grassroots level. Too often, beneficiaries are seen as passive partners in the process, but actually once you start designing projects and designing initiatives that see young people as a critical and central agent in that process, then it's completely transformative and the results are amazing.
We are the children of today. We understand how life moves along. We say our prayers to God. We dream to be the best. We try our best at everything. We hope all good comes to us. We are who we are. And this is just a small example of the kinds of things that young people can do when given the opportunities and the resources to do it.
We work on the role of media in preventing and countering radicalization and violent extremism. And we have came up with a description of what we do and what we think could be done in the future, both on a grassroots level and on a policy level.
They also have been very much active in organizing themselves in demonstrations through also social media. When there were events of terrorist attacks, they were gathering together and mobilizing the community from every different secting groups and ethnicity to provide support and at least emotional support to those who were victims of such attacks.
The importance of capacity building, of teacher training, and also developing all the teaching material, some of which is pre-existent, but like in languages like Arabic, we don't have a lot of teaching material relevant to global education.
The state, particularly in rural and underdeveloped areas, in the areas that were most vulnerable to violent extremism, lacked the authority to implement these texts.
The importance of spreading that knowledge and making people aware that there is an issue and we need to have more dialogue opportunities and push for teacher training programs and the use of global education resources in Arabic.
One of our two projects is the AIP, it's the Arab International Portal, and it's a curriculum that focuses on creating a global identity. It pushes students to explore other civilizations, learn how to embrace that, and do a lot of reflections and growth in that sense.
To provide teachers, educators, a guideline that can help them to know how to react in a violent context, in an extremist context, to help them to put forward their skills in order to improve their work in the local level.
This reform is introducing some innovations. As we can see here, schools and students are becoming the center of the process. And we have here the presence of involvement of parents, associations, teachers, of course, and the strategic orientation is to have cultural associations and a mandatory cultural activity for each student in the country.
There's always a need to address the approaches for the marginalized groups, and there's a need to promote and support youth-led initiatives that also promote social cohesion around the world.
I found that helping people is actually better than speaking about people. It saves time. Years from now, we're hoping that every student will be
enrolled in the schools, and we will not have any lost generation.